Welcome to the Madison Miller Podcast. Today is Thursday, May 7th, 2020. Today I'm going to talk about the latest rumors from the coronavirus and things that have been announced by some leagues. Then I'll recap the KBO scores from the past couple of nights and look ahead to tonight's slate a little bit. Talk about some schedule leaks that came out. The Masked Singer from last night. We'll preview tonight's episodes of Who Wants to Be a Millionaire and the premiere of The Watch Party on Fox. Then I'll do my NBA trade value list and my 2017 top 10 NBA games and players from 2017. First, we'll talk about the coronavirus. Major League Baseball plan could be announced next week. You're hearing that from a lot of the big-time reporters out there with Ken Rosenthal and Jeff Passan. Passan reported that MLB teams have begun to encourage players to prepare for a spring training that could begin in mid-June and the season that would start in early July. Sources familiar with the discussions tell Jeff Passan. So who knows? Maybe Trevor Plouffe might be correct about that. So that is very, very interesting. And just announced Tiger Woods and Peyton Manning versus Phil Mickelson and Tom Brady will be played May 24th, so Memorial Day weekend golf tournament between four big-time sports figures. Well, one of them's retired, one of them is still playing, and the other two are still playing golf. So that's something that I wanted to bring up very quickly. The NBA, there's facilities opening tomorrow, and an all-player call set will be Friday, and the call will intend to be an opportunity for players to address any concerns ahead of team facilities reopening. That's reported by Rona Shelburne. I believe the Cavaliers, the Portland Trail Blazers, and the Minnesota Timberwolves are among the teams that are reopening facilities on May 8th, which is tomorrow. The Lakers are reportedly looking at May 16th, so that is huge. And obviously California is one of the states that had a lot of cases, and things are better out in California now, so it makes sense for the Lakers to get things going. And the NFL sent out a memo to teams yesterday as well. The league sent the memo to all 32 teams outlining procedures to open team facilities and expects them to be in place by May 15th. So maybe NFL facilities could open perhaps in June or even at the end of May, and they can get training camp in. So that would be a pretty big deal for the NFL if they are able to get that in before training camp, and then they can have training camp, and then they can have a preseason. The preseason schedule is also being announced tonight. So, yeah, that's something else to keep an eye on for sure. Now I want to talk about the KBO a little bit. The league obviously started on Tuesday over in Korea, and the games were aired here in the United States on TV, some of them live, some of them over the reruns. So the league started on May 5th, and Hanwha defeated SK 3-0, NC defeated Samsung 4-0, Gangwon defeated Kia 11-2, Lotte defeated KT 7-2, and LG defeated Doosan 8-2. Yesterday, Gangwon over Kia 3-2, SK over Hanwha 5-2, Lotte over KT 9-4, NC over Samsung 4-3, and Doosan over LG 5-2. And then today, Kia over Gangwon 8-5, Hanwha over SK 8-4, Doosan over LG 9-3, Lotte over KT 7-3, and NC over Samsung 8-2. And then the games that will be on tomorrow It'll be 5:30 a.m. Eastern Time. Kia against Samsung, SK over against Lottie, LG over NC, Hanwha over Kium, and KT against Doosan. So a couple picks because it's almost the weekend, so why not? And I haven't done picks since Monday night and the league came back. The odds for the games are not up yet tonight, so just keep an eye out for picks on Twitter perhaps tonight, and then obviously we'll go over the weekend's games on the podcast tomorrow. The NFL schedule is being released tonight at 8 o'clock. The NFL Network and ESPN are each doing 3-hour shows, but Rich Eisen did say that the NFL Network show is going to be until midnight, so the promotions are wrong pretty much for the NFL Network. There were a couple leaks that came out today thus far, and this is why I did my predictions yesterday, because there's always leaks the day of. So that's why I did it yesterday. And good thing I did do it yesterday. And going forward, when there are scheduled releases, then I'll be doing my predictions maybe a couple days prior. The NFL the day prior, because the leaks normally do come out the day the schedule's released. And then the NBA, some of the leaks come out even before, maybe a couple days before the schedule comes out. So, the leaks. Jets are scheduled to open up their season in Buffalo against the Bills, so an AFC East matchup there. Tom Brady's first game with the Bucs will be in New Orleans versus the Saints and Drew Brees, 4:25 Eastern on Fox. So that's your Joe Buck, Troy Aikman, Aaron Andrews special. So, surprisingly, it's not the Cowboys' home opener. Eagles will open up their season in Washington versus the Redskins. So that's Ron Rivera's first game in D.C., so the Eagles go on the road against their division rivals. The Las Vegas Raiders will have a home Monday Night Football game in Week 2 versus the Saints, so the Vegas Raiders home opener looks like it's going to be in Week 2 against a good team. A couple of NFC North games. Week 2, Lions at the Packers. Week 12, Bears at the Packers on Sunday Night Football. Also, Eagles at the Packers is scheduled for Week 13, while Panthers at the Packers is scheduled for Week 15. And here's another one. The Raiders are scheduled to open up their season on the road versus Teddy Bridgewater and the Panthers. So that explains to why the Raiders' Monday night home game is Week 2 rather than Week 1. So maybe the Rams or the Chargers' new stadium home opener is the late night doubleheader game on ESPN Monday Night Football the first week. And that's it for the leaks. I'm sure there'll be more leaks out before 8 o'clock. So I just wanted to go over some of the leaks just now. Now I want to talk about last night's episode of The Masked Singer. It was an absolute shocker. Nobody expected Kitty to go home, but here we are. Bad job by the audience, just because there were singers that probably should have went home other than the Kitty. Frog went first. There was new hints about a little frog. So there's a reference of kids. A red car, hot dog buns. There was hay. There was a hawk. He performed Bust a Move by Young MC. And in this episode, each of the contestants had a doorstep item as a hint, and his was a private jet. My guess, as of right now, is still Lil Bow Wow. And there's two other names that I thought about, and I'm going to just keep them right here just in case it's not Lil Bow Wow. And that is Bob Sinclair from Rock This Party. That's where he's known from. And O'Neal Bryant, who is morely known as the Elephant Man, who is in the Cataluna and Timbaland song Wine Up. So, or no, Timbaland's not in that song. He says Cataluna. I keep thinking Timbaland's in that song, but he's not. Jenny McCarthy went with Anthony Mackie. Robin Thicke went with Bow Wow. Ken Jeong went with Derek Ho. But I don't think it's Derek Howe. And the guest panelist, Jeff Dye, went with Sir Mix-a-Lot. And I do not think it is Sir Mix-a-Lot. That would be weird because obviously Sarah Palin sang Baby Got Back. And obviously Sir Mix-a-Lot is known as Anthony L. Ray in the real world. Kitty, who got voted off. There was a hint about rainbows, an air balloon heart, talking about starting at a young age. Cherry Blossoms, there's a hint about New York. She performed Back to Back by Amy Winehouse. Her doorstep item was a bow and arrow. My guess was Kristen Chenoweth. Jenny McCarthy went with Leah Michelle. Jeff Dye went with Mary-Kate and Ashley Olsen, which was a terrible guess. And Nicole Scherzinger went with Vanessa Hudgens. Rhino went next. He had mentioned that he had a wife, somebody that has struggled in his past. There are 3 baby rhinos that could be referenced to kids. He performed You've Lost the Love Feeling by the Wrightus Brothers. His doorstep item was a Navy hat, which holds meaning to him. My guess is still Tim Tebow. I thought about Gavin DeGraw, but the more I think about it, I think it could be Tim Tebow because he's involved in a lot of charity work with kids. He doesn't have children, but he is involved with a lot of charity work, and Tebow is somebody that had struggles in his past. Nicole went with Jason Aldean, which I thought was a bad guess. Trace Atkins was Jeff Dye's guess, and Ken went with David James Elliott. Night Angel went next. There's a piano in the hint. She had a reference of a musical singer. There was a Columbia hint. There was lipstick. She said that Donna Summer had an influence on her. There was a letter. And she mentioned the kid from the South. She performed Last Dance by Donna Summer. Her personal item was a ski mask and boots. My guess is Kelly Rowland. There was a hint with the letter, and it had a name of a Destiny's Child song on the letter. And obviously there's that tricycle a couple weeks ago. So I'm sticking with Kelly Rowland. Do I feel good about it? No. Ken went with T-Baz. And Jeff Dye went with Alicia Keys, which I didn't think was a bad guess because Alicia Keys has been around a lot lately. So, it would kind of make sense if she did the show and then she just, before, like, she was doing her out and about stuff, she did the show. So, I won't be, like, dumbfounded if it's Alicia Keys. But I do think it's Kelly Rowland, but I don't feel good about it. The Turtle went last. There was a Jeep. 1999 was a major clue that I pointed out. But it was in the form of $1,999. But it could refer to 1999. There was a wrench. There was a wedding dance statue. There were poker chips. And he performed Fix You by Coldplay. His personal item was a zombie, which I thought was very interesting. I'm going to stick with A.J. McLean as my guess. Ken Jeong also guessed A.J. McLean, and he went with Howie D from the Backstreet Boys too. But I feel somewhat okay about the Howie D guess. Jeff Dye guessed Norman Reedus. Nicole Scherzinger said Max George or Jesse McCartney. There was a couple weeks ago where I saw somebody guess Jesse McCartney for the Turtle. And it's ironic because I had guessed him for the astronaut. And then there was a lot of talk on the show about how astronaut and turtle have been guessed the same people. So that'd be very strange if Jesse McCartney was the turtle, and because I obviously guessed him for another character. That hasn't happened yet, where I guess somebody else as a certain character, and it ended up being a different character. That happened with Wayne Brady in season 2. A lot of people thought he was the thingamajig, and then he wound up being the fox. So Jesse McCartney could end up being this season's thingamajig in that regard. Of people thought he was somebody else, and then he wound up being another character. So ultimately, Kitty went home. My final guess was Kristen Chenoweth. Nicole guessed Vanessa Hudgens. Jeff Dye went with Mary-Kate and Ashley. Or Ashley, I should say. But I thought that was a terrible guess. Robin Thicke went with Ashley Tisdale. Ken Jeong went with Anna Kendrick. Jenny went with Leah Michelle, which was a Ken Jeong guess a couple weeks ago. And who was it? Jackie Evancho, formerly of America's Got Talent. She won the competition in one of its first seasons. And it's ironic because Nick Cannon used to host that show. And Nick Cannon obviously knew her from that. And Nick Cannon was very surprised about this reveal. It was probably the second most surprising contestant on the show this season. And obviously Sarah Palin was the biggest surprise of all time on that show. And it's not even close. But yeah, this was probably the second biggest surprise of the season. You could argue her or even Tom Bergeron as the taco. But I think this was a bigger surprise because there were hints leading towards Tom Bergeron, but just nobody thought of him. Everybody's thinking about Bob Saget. Meanwhile, there's no hints towards America's Got Talent. Everybody was just guessing actresses or singers as the Kitty, but it wound up being Jackie Evancho. So I think this was very reminiscent of Rumor Willis in season 1 as the Lion, because everybody was guessing her as a singer, and a lot of people thought she was Kelly Rowland or Michelle Williams from Destiny's Child, and she wound up being Rumor Willis, which was a huge surprise to a lot of people. So yeah, this reminded me a lot of Rumor Willis, although I thought Rumor Willis was a better contestant on the show than Jackie Evancho, but not by much. I thought Kitty was very talented, but I still think that Lion was probably the very best singer in the history of the show thus far, in terms of females. And in the after show, Turtle gave out a special clue about how he used a lot of soap before quarantine, which got me nowhere. I'm still going to guess AJ McLean for the Turtle. And obviously on the after show, Jackie Evancho performed, she performed True Colors by Cyndi Lauper. Nicole Scherzinger had a performance with Dr. Elvis. No Ken Jeong on this episode. Donny Osmond was on the after show, and he was giving out some predictions for the season. Sarah Palin also made an appearance, which was awesome, and was talking about her Masked Singer experience, and they showed her the clip of her getting unmasked and how stunned everybody was. So yeah, fun, but surprising episode of The Masked Singer for sure. Now I'm going to preview tonight's episode of Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, 8 o'clock on ABC. Obviously, Jimmy Kimmel is the host. We left off on the show with Hannibal Buress, who is playing for his charity, and Buzzy Cohen is his help. And then Catherine O'Hara is the other contestant in the hot seat tonight. So I'm a little suspicious. I wonder if Burris or O'Hara go pretty far, because last couple weeks there's been 3 contestants, and now there are 2 contestants on tonight's show. So it should be fun. And now obviously this show is on Thursday nights rather than Wednesday nights, so ABC can get a good rating number for the show. Tonight premieres a new little show on Fox called the Celebrity Watch Party. A lot of celebrities are going to be on the show that are involved in Fox somehow. There's really a lot of Masked Singer people, a lot of people from their sports side. So like Joe Buck's going to be on there with his wife, Michelle Beesner Buck. So you got that. JoJo Siwa's going to be on the show with her family. Raven Simone's going to be on the show. I think I saw Sherry Shepherd. You'll probably see Jenny McCarthy, maybe Erin Andrews. So you'll see like a lot of big names on the show. And this show is about just celebrities at their homes watching TV. So you'll show highlights of them watching The Masked Singer, watching The Last Dance, and watching every other big-time reality or TV show that is currently on. It's obviously a thing to keep people entertained during quarantine, and obviously going to recap on tomorrow's show how it went down and what show were people watching and what celebrities popped on and all that fun stuff. Now I'm going to do my NBA trade value rankings. I'm going to go from 100 to 1. There's no honorable mentions. There's actually, when I made up the list, I ended up with 97, and I thought of a couple players to throw in there. So, without further ado, here's my top 100 NBA trade value list. The first group of players are either overpaid veterans, veterans that are nearing the ends of their primes, or veteran role players that were once perceived as franchise players. So this first group of people is 7 people. So number 100, Brook Lopez of the Bucks. He's the player that I said was once a franchise player and is now a role player. 99, Draymond Green. Someone who's overpaid. Somebody who I think the Warriors are kind of secretly dying to get rid of. 98, Al Horford. 97, LaMarcus Aldridge. Obviously, 2 big men that are overpaid and past their prime, sort of. Obviously, they're still good players, but like they're not as good as they used to be. 96, DeMar DeRozan. 95, Chris Paul. 94, Gordon Hayward. I didn't know where to put Chris Paul on this list because he obviously is a veteran who's still good. He's not as good as he used to be, but he's still helping a team win, and he unexpectedly stayed with the Thunder and really helped them have a good season this year. And if the league comes back, which I think it will, the Thunder are obviously going to be in the postseason, and I think are a threat to upset somebody if a couple things break right. All right, the next group of players is role players and players that were either perceived to be good but not lived up to expectations, or players that have exceeded expectations. This group of players, I believe there's 9 or 10 of them. So 93, Gary Harris. 92, Joe Harris. 91, Danny Green. 90, Danilo Gallinari. 89, Evan Fournier. 88, Will Barton. 87, Robert Covington. 86, Lou Williams. 85, Josh Richardson. 84, Patrick Beverley. So 10. So a lot of role players, a lot of sixth men, and then a lot of guys who really haven't lived up to expectations, like Gary Harris is probably the most notable name in terms of not lived up to expectations. A lot of, like I said, role players, starting players. Next group is overpaid, productive, young players that are surprisingly still young and are kind of perceived like veterans. So this list is 5 players. 83, Harrison Barnes. 82, Tobias Harris. 81, Zach LaVine. 80, Julius Randle. 79, Clint Capella. So a point guard, 2 forwards, and 2 centers. Obviously, Capella was just traded last year. He's a little bit of an unknown because he hasn't played a game with the Hawks. Julius Randle and Zach LaVine are similar players, in my opinion. probably the best players on bad teams in the Knicks and the Hawks that are overpaid. And then Tobias Harris and Harrison Barnes are just overpaid but productive players. Next group of players is 6 players. 2 of them are injury wild cards. 3 of them are point guards that are either injury prone or nearing the ends of their primes. And then, actually, no, there's 4 point guards that are nearing the ends of their primes or injury prone. So, 78 Kyle Lowry, 77 Kemba Walker, 76 Kyrie Irving, 75 Klay Thompson, 74 Kevin Durant, 73 Drew Holiday. So, Durant and Thompson are obviously the injury wild cards. You could argue Irving is too. But Irving, Walker, Lowry, and Holiday, in my opinion, are either nearing the ends of their primes or a little bit of injury prone. Irving and Holiday, it's more about injury prone. Walker, I just think is a little overpaid and is getting older, kind of. And then Kyle Lowry is kind of nearing the end of his prime. Next group of players is Young Building Blocks Group 1. So some of these guys are rookies, some of these guys are second-year players. So there are 11 or 12 in this group. Well, I'll say 11. Because this number 61 I'm going to put in the other group. So Jared Culver, Darius Garland, Cam Reddish, Derek White, Dante DiVincenzo, Tyler Herro, Rui Hachimura, Jonathan Isaac, Luke Kennard, Landry Shamet, Kyle Kuzma. So that's like a young group of guys that are either building blocks or guys that are highly regarded by their own teams, but a little other teams really, I think, are underestimating some of these guys as well. Next group of players is a group of players that I think are a little underappreciated or wild cards. So, 6 players: 61 Montrezl Harrell, 60 Christian Wood, 59 Malcolm Brogdon, 58 DeJounte Murray, 57 Nikola Vucevic, 56 Chris Middleton. So, underappreciated, I'd say, is Middleton, Vucevic, Murray, and Harrell, and I think Wood and Brogdon are a little bit of wild cards because Christian Wood's obviously in a contract year coming off the best year of his career, and then Brogdon just got paid by Indiana. We don't know how that will work out. So the next group of guys is Young Building Blocks Group number 2. These players, I think, have higher ceilings than the first group of Young Building Blocks. There are, it looks like, 12 players in this group. 55 Wendell Carter Jr., 54 DeAndre Hunter, 53 PJ Washington, 52 Colin Sexton, 51 Kobe White, 50 RJ Barrett, 49 Kevin Huerter, 48 Lauri Markkanen, 47 Jared Allen, 46 Mitchell Robinson, 45 John Collins, 44 Marvin Bagley. You could argue the 43rd player on this list should be in that group, but I think he deserves to be in a little bit of a higher group because of the perception of this player and because of potential I've seen from this player. You'll find out who from a second. So a mixture of rookies and a mixture of second and third year players in that building block group 2 as well. Next group of guys is 2 injury wild cards and a career year wild card. You could argue number 41 on this list should belong with Christian Wood, but I believe in this player more than Christian Wood. You'll find out who that is in a second. 43 Michael Porter Jr. You could argue he belongs in the other group with the building block group 2, but I've seen a lot of potential from Porter Jr. with the Nuggets and some limited time, and he's highly regarded around the NBA by some executives, and Denver just flat out refuses to trade him. And that's all you need to know. 42 Kristaps Porzingis. he's a wild card because he's always injured, and when he's healthy, he looks like one of the best 20 players in basketball. And 41, Devontae Graham. Graham's a wild card because he had a career year with Charlotte, and he should probably be with Christian Wood, but I believe in Devontae Graham more than Christian Wood. Next group of players is another group of young players that have shown all-star potential, and they're just a little bit safer bets than Porzingis and Porter Jr. So I split Devontae Graham with these group of guys just so they're going to be in a different group. So this group of players is 9 deep. 40, Jaren Jackson Jr., 39, Lonzo Ball, 38, Fred VanVleet, 37, Jamal Murray, 36, Karis LeVert, 35, Kelly Oubre Jr., 34, Jaylen Brown, 33, Brandon Ingram, 32, D'Angelo Russell. So a lot of guys that have made all-star teams already, or I should say a few, and Russell and Ingram, and some guys that have all-star potential, and Jaylen Brown, Karis LeVert, Jamal Murray, a guy that's about to be overpaid in Fred VanVleet, a guy with all-star potential in Lonzo Ball, another guy with all-star potential in Jaren Jackson Jr., Kelly Oubre Jr. is having a career year, but I believe in him more so than I believe in Devontae Graham and Christian Wood. So I put him in this group, and I think he's a safer bet because he is a two-way player. Devontae Graham has shown no signs of playing good defense, and Christian Wood might be a one-year wonder. Next group is a duo of 2 players that are Robins on Western Conference contenders. 31, Rudy Gobert, and 30, CJ McCollum. And obviously those 2 players are the second best players on their respective teams. Gobert is going to be forever known as the first sports figure to get coronavirus. And a lot of people, well, in my opinion, I have a feeling that he's going to be immensely booed in arenas and maybe even by his own fans too. He's become a huge villain in sports. Him and the Astros players, I think, are the biggest villains in sports right now. And people forget about the Astros because of the coronavirus, obviously. Next group of players is all-stars in their primes, who are franchise players that accomplished a lot. It's ironic because 4 of them are point guards, and the other one is somebody that is a small forward that has played point guard. 29, Russell Westbrook. 28, Stephen Curry. 27, Damian Lillard. 26, James Harden. 25, LeBron James. If this was obviously the best players in the NBA list, then LeBron James would be in the top 5, but this is a trade value list. That's why he's this low. And that's why Kevin Durant was low, where you guys saw Kevin Durant on the list. So, yeah, those 5. Westbrook was traded a couple times over the last couple, just one time over the last couple years. I was thinking of Paul George when I was saying that he's been traded a couple times, but he's only been traded once. Curry, he probably would be a little higher if he had not been coming off an injury. Damian Lillard, I think, is an absolute star. James Harden, we all know he's probably the best offensive player in the league, and then LeBron James, obviously, still at the peak of his powers and in his prime. All right, next group of players is some of them are all-stars and some of them are budding superstars. This group of players is 11 deep. 24, Victor Oladipo. 23, Devin Booker. 22, Jimmy Butler. 21, Domantas Sabonis. 20, Bam Adebayo. 19, DeAndre Ayton. 18, Karl Anthony Towns. 17, De'Aaron Fox. 16, Donovan Mitchell. 15, Pascal Siakam. A lot of these guys have made All-Star. Some of them haven't yet and will eventually in the future, assuming they stay healthy. And the next group is the top 14, the utterly untradeable franchise-type changing players. 14, Joel Embiid. 13, Nikola Jokic. 12, Paul George. 11, Anthony Davis. 10, Bradley Beal. 9, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. 8, Trae Young. 7, Ja Morant. 6, Kawhi Leonard. 5, Giannis Antetokounmpo. 4, Jason Tatum. 3, Ben Simmons. 2, Luka Doncic. And number 1, Zion Williamson. Yes, Zion is number 1 on the trade value list because he is a rookie on a rookie contract that's going to be a special player in the NBA for years to come. Luka Doncic, similar thing. He probably would have been number 1 had not been for some injuries, but you could say that about Zion too. So it came down for me, who's still in year 1 on a rookie contract pretty much, and that is obviously Zion. Although Luka is probably the better player right now, but Zion is arguably on the better team, even though Dallas was ahead of New Orleans in the standings by a lot this season. But that's because Zion was injured. If Zion had not been injured, New Orleans would be a top 4 or 5 seed in the Western Conference. And obviously with the pieces around him like Ball and Ingram and all those guys, Zion really has been put in a better position to succeed than Doncic, in my opinion. And then Ben Simmons is 3. You could argue injury concerns should be lower. Jason Tatum is an absolute star. Giannis is this low because he's going to be a free agent in the year and a half. Anthony Davis is not in the top 10 because he's a free agent this summer, or I should say this fall, because free agency might be in the fall this year. Ja Morant in the top 10. Trae Young. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is probably too high, but I really believe in this kid's potential, and plus he's on a rookie contract, and same for Young and Morant. Bradley Beal is a great all-around player who is under control for a while, so that's why he's that high. Paul George has, I believe, 2.5 or a year and a half left on his contract, so that's why he is that low. Kawhi is 6 because he's a free agent, I believe, in a year and a half from now. So that's why he's not even in the top 5. So yeah, fun list to do. Tomorrow I'll do the NHL trade value list. Now I'm going to do my 2017 top 10 NBA games. I'm going to do games before players this time, just to change things up. A couple of honorable mentions for you. Pacers-Cavaliers game 1. Cavs survive, and CJ Miles misses at the buzzer. Warriors-Cavs NBA Finals game 3. Cavs have the lead the whole time, and Kevin Durant leads the Warriors comeback. And then a regular season matchup between the Bulls and the Raptors on March 21st. So this is the calendar year 2017, because some of these games are in the 17-18 season, some of them are in the 16-17 season, like those 3 honorable mentions were. So without further ado, my top 10 NBA games of 2017. 10th place, Rockets-Celtics. That was on December 28th. National TV game on TNT. Celtics were down big, and then they came from behind the win. Go-ahead basket by Al Horford. 9th, Lakers-76ers. Obviously, Ben Simmons against Lonzo Ball. Fun game. And the Lakers wound up coming out on top in that one. 8th, Thunder 76ers. Another 76ers home game on here. Russell Westbrook and the Thunder come away with the victory against Embiid, Simmons, and the Sixers. 7th place, Spurs Grizzlies. First round, game 4. Overtime thriller. Marcus solved the game winner with 0.7 seconds left. 6th place, Celtics Wizards. Game 6, Eastern Conference semifinals. Wizards force a Game 7. John Wall hits the game-winning shot. 5th place, Celtics Cavaliers. Eastern Conference final, May 21st. Game 3, Avery Bradley game winner with 1 second left. That was the lone game the Celtics won in that series. 4th place, Timberwolves Thunder. October 27th, so this was in the 17-18 season. Andrew Wiggins buzzer beater. 3rd place, Knicks Hawks triple overtime affair. Neither of these teams were that good that season, although the Hawks made the postseason as a 5 seed, but they weren't the Hawks of the previous years under Budenholzer. And the Knicks, despite having a lot of big names on the roster like Porzingis and Melo and Derrick Rose and Joakim Noah, underachieved badly that season. And that was just a fun triple overtime game. Second place, Jazz Clippers, April 15th, first round, game 1. Joe Johnson buzzer beater, and obviously the Jazz went on to win that series in 7 games, and it was the end of the I forget the name of that era they called it, Lob City era with Chris Paul, DeAndre Jordan, and Blake Griffin. And number 1 game of 2017 in the NBA, Rockets Spurs, Western Conference semifinals, game 5, overtime affair. Manu Ginobili blocks James Harden as the Spurs go up 3-2, and they wound up winning that series in 6 games with an injured Kawhi Leonard. And then obviously that series against the Warriors was an all-time what-if because they had a big lead in game 1. Kawhi gets injured. Warriors come back and win game 1, and then they win that series, I believe, in 5. So if Kawhi Leonard wasn't injured, either the Spurs win that series or that series goes 7. So that's one of the bigger what-ifs in NBA history, and obviously that was Kawhi Leonard's last playoff series win as a member of the San Antonio Spurs, that series win over the Rockets. And now I'm going to do my 2017 top 10 NBA players. 3 honorable mentions: DeMar DeRozan helped lead the Raptors to the postseason yet again. Damian Lillard helping lead the Blazers to the postseason, and Jimmy Butler, who helped lead the Timberwolves to the playoffs that year. And now here's my top 10. 10th, Anthony Davis. He's that low because he was injured a lot. The Pelicans did not make the postseason in the 16-17 season, but they made it in the 17-18 season. So, in 2017, he really helped out the Pelicans a lot. And then Boogie got hurt, and then there was a little bit of Ewing theory there as they went to the second round without him. 9th, John Wall. I can't believe John Wall's on this list, which is nuts. He has the worst contract in the NBA right now. He hasn't played a game in 2 years, and obviously he helped lead the Wizards to the second round and took them to a 7th game against the Boston Celtics. 9th, Isaiah Thomas. He was a big part of the Celtics in 2017, leading them to the conference finals, and then he was never the same after his injury, and then they traded him away to Cleveland for Kyrie Irving. 7th place, Giannis Antetokounmpo. Obviously helped take the Bucks to the playoffs. They lost in 6 to the Celtics in the first round that year, if I'm not mistaken. Or else I might be thinking of 2018. But Giannis obviously was really coming around that season. Wait, I think they did make the postseason. They played the Raptors in 17, not in 18. 18 was the Celtics. 17 was the Raptors. And they took the Raptors to 6, and then the Raptors beat them in Game 6 in their home building. And Giannis obviously was a big part of that. 6, Russell Westbrook. Obviously won the MVP in the 2016-17 season. But he's this low because his team wasn't good, and I feel that the 5 players ahead of them were better. 5th, Kawhi Leonard helped lead the Spurs to the conference finals in 2017. You could argue Westbrook ahead of Kawhi because Kawhi wound up missing the 17-18 season, but he was an absolute monster, and you could argue he should have been the MVP that year instead of Russell Westbrook. 4th, James Harden, Houston Rockets, helped lead the Rockets to the second round. Obviously, he won the MVP in the 17-18 season, so that's why he's that high. 3rd place, Stephen Curry helped lead the Warriors to their second championship in a 3-year span. Number 2, LeBron James, helping lead the Cavs to their 3rd consecutive finals. And number 1, Kevin Durant, obviously the finals MVP in 2017, and then in 17-18 helped lead the Warriors to the finals and was the finals MVP that year as well. So there you have it, my top 10 NBA players plus honorable mentions of 2017. Okay, that's it for today. Tomorrow I'll be recapping the Millionaire episode and the watch party. We'll preview Sunday night's episode of American Idol and give out my picks to go to the top 7. My NHL redraft, my trade value, and my NHL top 10 players and games of 2017. And we'll recap the NFL schedule either on the show tomorrow or that might get a separate podcast. So stay tuned for that. Hope you guys have a great day, everyone.